More teamness at the top does relate all the way to a higher level of employee satisfaction, a lower degree of turnover intentions, more of a climate of positive energy.
The way the team at the top works influences everything in the organization, and everything else comes from there. Well, thank you, Anneloes. Thank you for talking to me about the work that you're doing, that you've been doing for some time. And I was going to ask you, you have published, you talk about teamness of top management teams. And can you explain what that means?
Thank you, Frans. Yeah, delighted to be here. So really, teamness implies just really the extent to which a top management team, a senior leadership team, a board, whatever entity is there, works as a team versus works more as a fragmented set of individuals.
Okay. And I think you have shown that the teamness of a top management team affects quite a bit their effectiveness with regards to the rest of the organization.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a line of research on the positive effects of having high teamness in top management teams, basically for three type of outcomes. One is team-like teams make better strategic decisions. Second, as a result of those better decisions, we also see better financial results of this company as compared to teams that work less as teams. And third, and here's where I have a particular interest, we also see that there is a clear role modeling function of a team-like top management team. We ask so often in our organizations of our people to be team players, to work in teams, to collaborate. And we see a lot of positive effects if a top management team is demonstrating exactly that type of behavior that they want for the rest of the organization as well. So in our research, we have demonstrated that more teamness at the top does relate all the way to a higher level of employee satisfaction, a lower degree of turnover intentions, more of a climate of positive energy.
I guess part of what's happening is not directly observed necessarily
Yes.
by the people in the organization. It's inferred. So I see there's not just a question of doing things, but also of communicating them adequately so that it's understood.
Yeah, yeah. So we see three dimension in my research. We see kind of the informational channel, the relational channel, but also, and I think that's what you're pointing to, just the symbolic effect of how people see things. And, sometimes, whatever happens, in the C-suite, if people see their management team having lunch every now and then together, something that might or might not be at all related to teamness, something like that might make a difference.
So now that we know how important it is, how big the impact of teamness is, what can we say to top management teams of how to increase, how to be better teams?
So the first I really talk about is the mindset. What is your mindset about leadership? And this is not self-evident because many people that you talk about, we have been raised very much to think about leadership as a let's say more of a one captain on a ship type of approach. There's a strong perception among many people that in the end, there can only be one person taking the decisions. And the idea of sharing responsibilities, decision making at the top of organizations is not always self-evident. Second, I would say is really about developing a vocabulary to talk about interpersonal processes in the team. How do you talk about how you work as a team? For some people, that is easy, but for others, we don't necessarily often have the vocabulary for that. So I work on that. And then, there's surveys that you can take measuring the degree of joint decision making, information exchange, collaborative behavior. And then we start working from there, looking at the perspectives of the different team members. Where do they differ in their perceptions? Where do they agree? Where do they want to go to together? So we focus a lot on that, really.
So necessarily, this is a process that's going to take some time, I guess, no, and has to be undertaken also consciously. And if I go to my office tomorrow as a senior leader, that day, what do I do?
I would say ultimately many of these things are also a matter of time and priority. Here, I think back of a program that we had at IESE where we had management teams that were already functioning very well. This was an organization that had all their leadership positions structured in teams in multi-headed leadership. At the end of the program, every team had to share what they would do differently as a result of the program. And almost all of them said, we will spend more time together. So I think for any senior leader returning to their office and thinking, how do I want to implement this? It's about how much of a priority is this? And if this is a priority, how am I allocating time to this? When do I get my team together? How do we talk? What is important?
Great. Thank you, Anneloes. A fascinating piece of research and very important indeed, because as you show in your work, the way the team at the top works influences everything in the organization and everything else comes from there. So thank you. Thank you, Anneloes.
Thank you, Frans.